with their full skill sets, move over and focus on that. So better team of people available, better surveillance. The prescription for getting this right, as long as we remember how bad this was, and we're willing to pay, which will only be, billions a year, to avoid trillions of dollar disaster. I think that roadmap's clear, and I talked with the president-elect about that, and I think our foundation will be part of that dialogue to make sure we don't blow it again.
He says a plague will be coming.
When did it happen?
That scientist.
Does he want you to supervise some sort
One
of
of the scientists.
preparedness task force? What more can you tell us about it?
For future
He's
plagues.
picked good people to play the official roles. And so I think for myself, for my wife Melinda, for our experts, simply being in discussions with them is how we can best contribute. And as you've seen, it's a talented group. You've got a whole set of skill sets there. He brings a view that America succeeds when the rest of the world succeeds. So the U.S. has not provided any funding for the poor countries to get a vaccine. I've been talking with members of Congress about whether it's in a stimulus bill or some way.
Law of one, because of the outbreak came from another country.
The stimulus money going to help those poor countries.
What was your response, or what is your response when it's not just fringe people in society, it's people in MAGA media talk about the Fauci Gates vaccine. They talk about how you want to inject chips in people. I mean, all this crazy
The bottom
stuff.
line is he's talking future plagues.
What is it like to hear
This
that?
scientist, one of Trump's. I'm not sure if he's one of Trump's or
I'm
not.
surprised, and I'm not even quite sure how to react. Dr. Fauci and I believe in vaccines. Vaccines have saved millions of lives. That's what our foundation is all about, and so our expertise was valuable here in getting the scale up of those things. You've got to be willing to speak out publicly, even if it's not always well understood. So I do worry, will this make people not want to take the vaccine or not believe, in polio eradication or other causes that I think are valuable.
But why?
Being an expert on pandemics, you obviously
Why
know a lot about business.
are they telling us more plagues are coming, unless they know already these plagues are in the making?
The U.S. is still down nearly 10 million jobs since the
Poor
pandemic began in
countries
February. More jobs than
could
were
be
lost
most
during the
vulnerable,
recession.
which that's how they go worldwide. So unless you heal the world,
full economic recovery.
come on, man.
Well, my expertise is more in the vaccine, and I do think that's a central element, to have restaurants and tourism resume.
Get ready to help your brother like never before.
Levels they were before the pandemic. I do think
That's a word from the Lord. Help your brother. Be your brother's keeper.
Economic numbers will be quite strong because most things will be back to normal. In the fall, I expect we'll be able to open all schools, even with face-to-face. And then, we have some innovation you talked about medical innovation that was driven by this, more use of telemedicine, online education, less having to go to the office or take business trips. There's a level of new approaches across many areas that will help the economy in the future.
One last question for you, sir. The U.S. has reported around 20% of the world's coronavirus cases, 20% of the world's coronavirus deaths. The U.S. only makes up around 4% of the world's population. How do you think history will ultimately judge the U.S. response to the pandemic?
Well, the U.S. would have been expected to be the best. We have the CDC, we have the most PCR machines, we've got the NIH, all this capacity. And sadly, before the epidemic and the first 2 or 3 months of the epidemic, we didn't get on top of it like many countries did. So change things. These postmortems over the next year will guide us. But it's a tragedy that we weren't able to respond like we could have.
And he says more plagues are certain to come. That's my point, y'all. Only in the Lord now, bro.
On behalf of the whole world, appreciate it.
Yeah, God
Thank
bless.
you.